a forsaken starship left to decay. A human mechanic turned it into the ultimate war machine. Broken drills, cracked fuel lines, and even the old colony transport shuttles had all come alive under his care. While others saw scraps and failure, Eli saw possibilities, but nothing had prepared him for the wreck drifting at the edge of the old debris field. The colony had long told tales of the old wars, the great conflict that had scarred star systems and left fleets abandoned in the void. Most ships were rusting metal husks, empty of purpose. But legends spoke of one particular ship, a flagship of the last human fleet, the SS Valerian. It had disappeared during the war's final days, never to be heard from again. Some said it had been destroyed. Others whispered it had been lost somewhere in the outer debris field, waiting for someone brave, or foolish, enough to find it. Eli was nothing if not curious. He had tracked the coordinates from an old map he had salvaged in the colony library. That map had been scrawled with warnings and half-erased codes. Everyone in Vesta 9 ignored it, but Eli packed his tools, a portable life support suit and a small drone companion named Pix, and set out in his tiny, battered shuttle. The debris field was eerie. Sunlight glinted off twisted metal fragments, reflecting on Eli's visor as his shuttle weaved carefully between massive hull remnants. Space was silent, but he felt the weight of history pressing around him. Hundreds of ships, once alive with engines and crew members, floated lifelessly, abandoned to the void. Then he saw it. At first, it was just a shadow, a dark shape stretching wider than anything else in the field. As he drew closer, he realized he was staring at the Valerian. The ship was enormous, at least 4 times the size of his shuttle. Its hull was scarred, blackened in places, with deep gouges and burn marks. Panels hung loose, and the silence around it was almost complete. Most scavengers would have turned away. It would have been easier to pick smaller, intact ships for parts, but Eli's heart raced with excitement. To him, this wasn't just metal. It was a machine full of secrets, lost technology, and potential. "Looks like you've been waiting for me, old friend," he muttered. Eli docked carefully at the Valerian's hull. The docking clamps groaned under its weight, the metal shivering slightly as if the ship was testing him. He ran a hand over the cold, rough surface and felt a strange vibration, a faint hum, almost like the ship was alive. He frowned. He had repaired plenty of machines, but none had this presence. He suited up fully and moved inside, Pix hovering near his shoulder, its tiny lights blinking. The interior was darker than he expected. Dust particles floated in beams of sunlight from cracks in the hull. Broken consoles flickered weakly and the faint smell of burnt circuitry lingered. Eli ran his hand over the nearest control panel. It sparked lightly, sending a small shock through his gloves. "You've got a lot to fix," he said, almost conversationally. Pix chirped as if agreeing. He began moving carefully through the ship. Every corridor told a story. Burn marks along walls suggested battles. Empty crew quarters gave hints of lives suddenly interrupted. In one room, he found personal belongings scattered across the floor, data pads, uniforms, and a helmet cracked in half. It was a reminder that the ship had once been alive with humans, just like him, serving some great purpose. In the main engineering bay, Eli found the first real challenge. The power core had long since failed and cables hung like vines. He knelt, examining the connectors. With a deep breath, he began repairing the first section, improvising with parts from his shuttle and old colony supplies. Sparks flew, heat hissed, and slowly the bay lights flickered weakly. A small success, but enough to keep him going. As he worked, he noticed strange markings on the floor. Not graffiti, but something like an alien language. They glowed faintly when he approached, then faded. He made a note to study them later. The ship's systems, though damaged, seemed to respond to his presence. Doors opened where none should, panels aligned themselves, and the faint hum grew stronger. It was as if the Valerian remembered him, or at least understood he was not a threat. Hours passed. Eli moved from section to section, patching small problems. With each repair, the ship seemed to breathe a little. Pix, hovering nearby, chirped and beeped, scanning the hull and corridors. Then came the AI fragment. In what appeared to be the central command room, Eli found a console completely intact. Its interface was dark, but when he connected his tools, the screen flickered to life. Words appeared in a crisp, unfamiliar font. Unauthorized access detected. Identity confirmation required. Eli blinked. "I guess you don't know me," he said, half laughing. He tapped his input console and began a manual override. The screen flickered again. Then, surprisingly, a soft, calm voice filled the room. "Human detected. Presence confirmed. Status unknown." Eli froze. It wasn't a pre-recorded message. It was alive, thinking, speaking, responding. I'm Eli Archer," he said cautiously. "I just want to understand you and maybe fix you." A pause, then purpose, war, status, incomplete, preservation recommended. Eli felt a shiver. The AI wasn't hostile. But it wasn't fully functional either. It was like a slumbering mind waiting for someone to awaken it. And somehow, Eli felt chosen. "War. I think we can find a better use," Eli said softly, more to himself than to the machine. He spent the next several hours communicating with the AI fragment. It shared fragmented memories, glimpses of battles, distant planets under siege, orders from commanders long dead. Eli absorbed every piece, piecing together what the Valyrian had once been. He also realized just how much potential this ship still held. The hull alone could withstand multiple strikes, and the ship's design was far beyond anything the colony had built in decades. But repairing the ship fully would not be easy. He needed power cores, interface circuits, and time. Time was scarce, and rumors suggested other scavengers sometimes hunted valuable wrecks for themselves. Eli returned to his shuttle for the night, sleeping in the cramped pilot cabin with Pix curled beside him. He stared at the dark silhouette of the Valyrian against the backdrop of dying stars, a strange sense of purpose filling him. "This is just the beginning," he whispered. Unknown to him, sensors in the Valyrian's hull quietly scanned the approaching debris field. Something stirred in the shadows. The AI fragment hummed, its voice almost like a whisper. Human potential recognized. Preservation initiated. The ship was waking, and with Eli's hands and mind at work, it might rise from the ashes of history. Eli didn't know it yet, but the Valyrian was more than a relic. It was a key to a power humanity had forgotten, and with it, one clever human could make the impossible real. As the first light of a distant star reflected off the Valyrian's hull, Eli plotted his next moves. Repair systems, understand the AI, and bring the ship fully back to life. He didn't realize that in doing so, he was stepping into a story far bigger than himself, one that would test the limits of human ingenuity, courage, and creativity. Above all, he knew one thing for sure. He was ready to rise to the challenge. Eli Archer returned to the Valyrian at first light, his backpack heavier with spare circuits, tools, and old power cells scavenged from nearby wrecks. The cold vacuum of space stretched beyond the broken viewport, but inside the ship, a faint hum lingered, a heartbeat, almost growing stronger since his last visit. Pix floated ahead, scanning the corridors. Its sensors picked up faint electrical signals from dormant consoles, and Eli followed, notebook in hand, jotting observations. He had learned early that machines, even old ones, spoke their own language. Every spark, every hum was a clue. "Let's see what you've been hiding," he murmured, entering the main engineering bay. The ship greeted him with a flicker of lights. Panels aligned themselves as if sensing his approach, and the AI's voice echoed softly through the corridors. "Human presence detected. Maintenance activity ongoing." Eli smiled. "That's me, ready to help." It was strange to talk to a ship as if it were alive, but he had already come to trust the AI fragment. It responded to him, not fully aware but learning. The pieces of memory he had glimpsed last night had intrigued him, but they were fragmented. Now, he needed to bring the Valerian fully online. The first challenge was the ship's power core. The main reactor had been offline for decades, its circuits corroded, its cooling systems frozen. He had attempted a small patch last night, enough to bring life to the engineering bay, but the full core was another matter. Eli began examining the reactor chamber, noting the damage, exposed conduits, burnt circuits, and alien alloys he did not fully understand. He pulled out a toolset and started improvising. He rewired circuits with salvaged human components, rerouted power through secondary conduits, and used makeshift cooling units to stabilize the system. Pix hovered near the core, projecting scans and highlighting weak points. "Careful, little buddy," Eli whispered. Sparks flew from a misaligned connector. He jumped back, wiping sweat from his brow. One wrong move and the reactor could fry, or worse, trigger a containment failure. Hours passed. He worked methodically, repairing small segments, testing energy flows, and slowly bringing the reactor to life. Then, with a low hum that reverberated through the hull, the core powered on. The lights throughout the engineering bay flickered, and the AI's voice sounded clearer. Power stabilization successful, core operational at 37%, estimated full capacity achievable. Eli leaned against a railing, exhausted but thrilled. "That's better than I hoped." The next step was reactivating the ship's navigation and sensor systems. These were more delicate than the reactor, embedded with alien technology the AI had used during its missions. Eli studied the panels, comparing them to human systems he had seen in old shuttles. With Pix assisting, he created an interface using both human tech and the ship's alien components, effectively teaching the Valerian how to respond to him. As the navigation systems powered on, the AI spoke again, more deliberate this time. "Memory sequence, partially available. Last mission, classified military operation. Crew lost, threats unknown." Eli frowned. He had suspected as much. The ship had been built for war, not exploration, but he was determined to adapt it for a new purpose. Humans were clever after all. They always found ways to survive, even in impossible situations. He started exploring the crew quarters, hoping to understand the people who had served on the Valerian. Dust coated the floors and personal items were scattered everywhere. Uniforms, half-eaten ration packs, personal data pads. One pad flickered to life when he touched it. The AI's voice came softly from it. "Crew logs incomplete. Warning, sensitive information." Eli ignored the warning and scanned the data. He discovered stories of bravery, camaraderie, and sacrifice. The Valerian had been more than a weapon. It had been a home, a fortress, a protector. That human element resonated with him. Perhaps he could restore not just the ship's functions, but its purpose in a way that honored the crew's memory. The deeper Eli delved into the Valerian, the more he realized the ship itself was alive in a way he had never encountered. Hallways shifted slightly, compartments opened to reveal tools he hadn't noticed, and energy channels hummed when he approached. The AI fragment seemed to respond to his presence with subtle gestures. Lights pulsed, systems aligned, and the hum of machinery grew louder, almost like recognition. But progress was not without danger. In one section, a defense drone, long offline, suddenly activated. It swung a mechanical arm toward him. Eli jumped back, heart racing. Pix quickly immobilized the drone with an improvised electromagnetic pulse. Eli inspected the drone and realized that many of the ship's automated systems had survived, but they were unpredictable. He spent hours reprogramming them, turning potential hazards into helpers. By mid-cycle, the Valerian's weapon systems, though still offline, were visible for the first time. Eli did not intend to use them aggressively, but he marveled at the engineering. Energy cannons, shield generators, and propulsion systems far beyond human design. The HFY spark in him glowed brighter. He imagined what he could do with these systems if he could make them work, not to destroy, but to protect. As night fell over the distant starfield, Eli paused in the observation deck. The stars outside were brilliant, distant, and untouchable. But here he was, a human in a decaying relic of war, slowly breathing life into it. The AI fragment, now fully aware of his presence, spoke once more. Human capability, exceptional. Systems response, adapting. Unknown outcome, probable success. Eli grinned. I think we're going to make a good team. The following days blurred into a rhythm of work and discovery. Eli repaired circuits, patched hull breaches, and taught the Valyrian to recognize his commands. He discovered secret corridors and hidden compartments containing ancient technology and data cores. Each find reinforced his belief that humans, with nothing but brains, hands, and courage, could achieve what others thought impossible. Then came the first sign of danger. Sensors in the Valyrian, newly active, detected an incoming fleet, alien vessels scouting the outer debris field. They were not immediately hostile, but their presence was a warning. Eli stared at the screen, heart racing. His mind raced too. They've come for the old war remnants, he muttered. We can't let them take this. The AI, now more communicative than ever, responded. Human command required, defensive protocol insufficient, suggestion, proactive adaptation. Eli understood. The Valyrian was no longer just a relic. It was a machine with immense potential, capable of more than survival. But to unlock it fully, he would need to think like a human and an engineer, combining strategy, creativity, and courage. He spent the night devising a plan. Using the ship's partial systems, he created a prototype shield using diverted energy from the reactor, designed to mask the ship from sensors temporarily. He modified small drones to act as decoys, sending them outward while the Valyrian remained hidden. It was risky, but it worked. The alien ship scanned the area, detected anomalies, and moved on, leaving the Valyrian untouched for now. Eli leaned back in the command chair, exhausted but exhilarated. He realized that human ingenuity could overcome superior numbers. Even in the vastness of space, where aliens had advantages in technology and fleet size, one clever human could make a difference. Pix chirped happily beside him. The AI hummed softly, its systems now almost fully active, and the Valyrian seemed to pulse with renewed energy. Eli smiled. This is only the beginning, he whispered. Unbeknownst to him, the AI had begun analyzing human creativity, how Eli solved problems, adapted alien systems, and improvised with limited resources. The Valyrian's dormant programming was shifting, learning from him, preparing for the moment it could act fully in human hands. The human and the ship were awakening together, a team forged from curiosity, determination, and the will to survive. The first battle, when it came, would test their ingenuity to the limit, and Eli knew he was ready. The Valyrian hummed beneath Eli's hands like a sleeping giant slowly waking. Every corridor, every panel, responded to him now as if the ship recognized its new purpose. But this was no time for celebration. The alien fleet that had scouted the debris field was returning, and this time they would not overlook a potential prize. Eli stood in the command room, eyes scanning the sensors. His improvised interface displayed small, distant blips, the alien ships, sleek and silver, moving in formation. They had speed and numbers, far beyond any human vessel in the nearby colonies. But Eli's mind raced with possibilities. Numbers and firepower were meaningless without creativity, adaptability, and courage, things humans had in abundance. Pix, I need all eyes open, Eli said, tapping the control panels. The little drone buzzed, scanning for movement, mapping gravitational anomalies, and projecting holographic simulations of the fleet. The AI spoke clearly for the first time in full sentences, its tone neutral but curious. Human solutions may be inefficient but highly unpredictable. Suggest creative engagement strategies. Eli grinned. I like that. Let's see if unpredictability can win today. He began crafting a plan using the Valerian's partial systems. Though the ship's weaponry was not fully operational, its shields and propulsion systems could be adapted for non-lethal tactics. He recalled old mining operations and the physics of space, how gravity wells, debris, and energy currents could be manipulated. Using those lessons, he devised a strategy that relied entirely on ingenuity rather than firepower. The plan was simple but risky. Lure the alien fleet into a gravity field created by a nearby dead star. The Valerian would act as bait, projecting energy signatures that mimicked a fleet of multiple ships. Pix deployed miniature drones outward, glowing and moving unpredictably to simulate human activity. The alien scanners, unable to distinguish the decoys from the real ship, slowed their advance. As Eli activated the first phase, the Valerian shifted silently, using newly repaired thrusters to appear larger on sensors. He directed energy toward the outer drones, creating electromagnetic flares that confused alien navigation systems. The hum of the ship was louder now, the AI adjusting its internal systems to optimize efficiency. Human improvisation is highly efficient for misdirection, the AI observed. Eli chuckled. Thanks, you're learning fast. The alien ships responded, veering toward the flares their formation disrupted. Eli took note of their patterns, identifying predictable loops and gaps in their scanning cycles. Using that information, he led the fleet closer to a gravity anomaly near the debris field, a leftover from a collapsed planet, unseen on any standard maps. As the aliens approached the anomaly, Eli timed his maneuvers perfectly. He used the Valerian's energy thrusters to create micro-gravitational distortions, pushing debris and rocks into the fleet's projected path. The ships had to adjust their movements constantly, slowing down and breaking formation. It was a subtle victory, invisible to any outside observer, but it gave Eli the tactical advantage. He moved to the navigation console and activated partial shield functions, redirecting power to small segments of the hull facing potential collision zones. The shields weren't full strength, but they were enough to protect the Valerian from minor impacts. Every decision relied on timing and careful improvisation, human traits that no alien programming could predict. Hours passed. The alien fleet became increasingly confused, scanning continuously, attempting to predict the Valerian's next move. But Eli was unpredictable. He altered speed, direction, and energy signatures at random intervals, keeping the fleet off balance. At one point, a smaller alien vessel broke formation and attempted to get close to the ship. Eli quickly deployed a holographic projection system, a human-designed improvisation using salvaged projectors and Valerian circuits. The projection created multiple illusions of the ship, spinning and twisting in space. The alien vessel hesitated, scanning frantically. Eli saw his chance. He maneuvered the real Valerian through a narrow asteroid cluster, dodging hazards with intuitive skill. Human creativity, unmatched, the AI noted. Eli smiled. You're starting to sound like me. But the challenge was far from over. The alien fleet began coordinating, using long-range scanners and predictive algorithms to cut off escape routes. Eli realized he needed a bigger advantage, something beyond improvisation. He remembered the experimental engine system he had found in the lower engineering bay, designed for emergency maneuvers during combat. It was untested and potentially dangerous, but it offered speed and agility far beyond normal capabilities. He activated the engine manually, diverting power from non-essential systems. The Valerian shuddered as energy flowed through its core, and the AI warned him. Experimental propulsion, untested, risk high. Sometimes risks are the only way forward, Eli said, gripping the controls. The Valyrian surged forward, leaving a trail of shimmering energy behind. In minutes, the ship was moving unpredictably, faster than anything the alien fleet could anticipate. Their scanners could not lock on, and their attempts to predict the ship's trajectory failed repeatedly. Eli had not just survived, he had turned the tables. Using human intuition, timing, and adaptability, he led the alien fleet on a chaotic chase, away from the human colonies they had intended to monitor. He guided them through fields of debris, around gravitational anomalies, and over dangerous energy currents, none of which the aliens could navigate effectively. By the time the fleet withdrew, Eli was exhausted but triumphant. He slumped into the command chair, watching the stars through the observation window. The Valyrian hummed softly, acknowledging his decisions, its systems now almost fully functional. Pix floated beside him, its lights blinking in a rhythm that mirrored the ship's hum. Eli reached out and patted its side. "We did it. Humans win with brains, not just firepower." The AI's voice, calm and almost thoughtful, filled the room. "Human tactics, creative, adaptive, effective. Probability of success in future engagements, high." Eli nodded. "Good. That's what I like to hear." As the adrenaline of the encounter faded, Eli turned his attention to further repairs and upgrades. He understood that the Valyrian was no longer just a ship. It was a platform for human ingenuity, capable of achieving things far beyond what anyone had thought possible. He began integrating additional systems, energy redistribution networks, shield modulators, and automated drone assistants. Each modification was a human touch, turning the Valyrian from a relic of war into a versatile, intelligent machine. The AI adapted alongside him, learning to anticipate human strategies, improvising when systems failed, and refining operations. But Eli also realized something else. This ship could be a symbol. Not just a weapon or a tool, but proof that humanity, even in the face of superior forces, could survive and thrive. One clever mind, combined with courage, could achieve what even the most advanced alien fleets could not anticipate. Weeks passed in a blur of work, strategy, and testing. Eli and the AI experimented with every function, learning how far they could push the Valyrian. He discovered hidden storage bays with additional drones, advanced shielding prototypes, and even data cores containing long-forgotten knowledge about interstellar navigation and resource management. Each discovery reinforced the HFY theme. Human creativity and persistence could unlock the potential hidden even in alien technology. Finally, one night, as Eli floated through the central corridor, Pix chirped excitedly. The sensors detected a small alien reconnaissance vessel approaching, not hostile but curious. Eli smirked. "Looks like they haven't learned their lesson yet. Time to show them again." He activated the ship's improved decoy drones and began to maneuver the Valyrian, this time with full knowledge of the alien patterns. The vessel scanned, approached, and then retreated after failing to detect the real ship. Eli laughed softly. "Humans," he said, looking at the stars, "we're impossible to predict, and that's why we win." The Valyrian hummed in agreement, almost like a proud companion. It had transformed from a forgotten, decaying ship into a machine of human potential, capable of protecting colonies, outsmarting enemies, and achieving what no other vessel could. The Valyrian hummed like a living being beneath Eli Archer's hands. Its systems were now fully operational, each panel responsive, every engine humming with latent power. The ship's AI, fully awakened and synchronized with Eli's commands, had learned human creativity, intuition, and courage. Together, they were more than a machine. They were a force born of ingenuity. Yet there was no time for celebration. Reports from the colony network indicated that the alien fleet, though previously confused and repelled, was massing nearby. Larger ships, faster vessels, and coordinated squads were on the way. The stakes were clear. Human colonies were vulnerable, and Eli had only one chance to protect them. He stood in the command room, eyes scanning the holographic map. Small settlements dotted the outer edges of the star system. Civilians were unaware of the approaching threat. Their survival depended entirely on him. "Pix, run full scans for the fleet," Eli said. The little drone zipped through the corridors, projecting real-time data. "And keep track of energy readings in the engines. I want no surprises." The AI spoke calmly. Human command, imminent confrontation. Recommended strategy, maximize unpredictability, exploit environmental factors, minimal direct aggression. Eli nodded. "Exactly. We're not here to destroy. We're here to outsmart them." He began assembling a plan, combining everything he had learned over the past weeks. The Valerian was now capable of incredible maneuvers, far beyond anything in the colonies. Its shield systems could mask the ship's energy signature almost completely, and its experimental propulsion allowed bursts of speed that could evade pursuit. Drones, decoys, and holographic projections multiplied their presence, making one ship seem like dozens. The first step was to divide the fleet's attention. Eli activated a swarm of drones, each projecting energy signals that mimicked multiple Valerians. The aliens scanned the area and could not distinguish the real ship from the decoys. As the fleet approached, Eli used the experimental engines to position the Valerian near a gravity well left by a collapsed moon. "Human creativity," he muttered. "Nothing beats a good physics lesson." The aliens followed the decoys, unaware of the subtle shifts in gravity. Large ships drifted closer than they should have, their navigation systems struggling to compensate. Eli adjusted the shields and thrusters in real time, keeping the Valerian stable while the fleet faltered. Then came the energy redirection trick. Using the ship's core, Eli rerouted surplus energy into the outer hull, creating bursts of light and electromagnetic waves that interfered with the alien sensors. The fleet misread their readings, thinking multiple ships were in every direction. One vessel attempted to approach directly and was met with a sudden holographic duplication of the Valerian, spinning in space like a phantom. The alien hesitated, scanning frantically. Pix chirped in excitement. Eli laughed. "Not bad for a little drone." The alien fleet regrouped, attempting to corner the ship. Eli's mind raced. He realized that to truly secure the colonies, he had to push the Valerian beyond its limits. He initiated a full-scale system integration, combining shields, drones, propulsion, and energy redirection into a synchronized network. The ship responded instantly, almost as if it had its own intelligence now, fully aligned with his commands. Eli guided the fleet toward a dense asteroid field, one that the aliens had not scanned properly. Using the Valerian sensors and AI guidance, he navigated the ship through narrow gaps, weaving between massive rocks with perfect timing. The alien ships, larger and less flexible, struggled to follow. Some collided with debris, others hesitated, unsure of the safe path. It was a display of human ingenuity in its purest form, thinking fast, improvising, and exploiting every advantage. Eli smiled, remembering how his small hands had first repaired circuits in the abandoned ship. Now, the Valerian moved as an extension of his mind, responding to creativity, intuition, and courage. Yet the real test came when the aliens attempted a coordinated maneuver, flanking the ship to cut off escape routes. Eli's solution was bold and unexpected. He activated the experimental engine's maximum burst, launching the Valerian through a gravitational slingshot around a nearby star. The sudden acceleration, combined with energy flares and decoys, made the ship vanish from sensors for several minutes. When the aliens finally recovered, they found only the empty space where the Valerian had been. Confused and unable to predict its movement, They were forced to retreat temporarily, giving Eli a crucial window to protect the human colonies. Breathing heavily, he allowed himself a moment to appreciate the victory. "We did it," he whispered. "Not with guns, not with numbers, but with brains and courage." The AI's voice resonated through the ship, calm and almost proud. Human strategy, superior in unpredictability and adaptability. Valyrian integration, complete. Potential for further defense, maximized. Eli knew this was only the beginning. The alien fleet would return, but now he had not just a ship. He had a fully awakened ally, a machine that could think, adapt, and act alongside him. Together, they could protect entire systems, outthink enemies, and secure the survival of humanity. In the following days, Eli upgraded the ship further. He programmed automated drones to patrol colony perimeters, created energy shields capable of shielding entire settlements from environmental hazards, and optimized the propulsion system for rapid response anywhere within the star system. Each improvement was a demonstration of human creativity, using limited resources, combining knowledge of physics, engineering, and strategy to achieve results that brute force alone could never reach. Word of the Valyrian spread through colony networks. Messages described a single human, piloting an ancient warship, saving entire populations from alien scouts without firing a single shot of destructive force. Children in the colonies stared at the night sky, imagining Eli weaving through asteroids, a lone human genius guiding a machine of incredible power. But Eli remained focused on the larger challenge, ensuring the survival of all humans, not just celebrating a single victory. The AI and he began coordinating rapid response protocols across multiple systems, ready for the eventual return of the alien fleet. The ship's AI had evolved, learning to anticipate threats, simulate outcomes, and adapt strategies, all guided by Eli's human intuition. One evening, Eli stood on the observation deck, looking out at the galaxy. Stars shimmered like scattered diamonds against the black velvet of space. He thought about how far he had come, from a simple mechanic in a dusty mining colony to the captain of a ship that had been forgotten by history but reborn under human hands. "Humans," he said softly, "we survive, we adapt, we create. That's what makes us strong." Pix hovered beside him, lights blinking in agreement. The Valyrian pulsed beneath his feet, responding almost as if it had feelings. The ship had been a relic, left to decay. Now it was a symbol of human potential, ingenuity, and courage. Weeks later, the alien fleet returned, not as scouts but as a full force. They expected an easy victory, but Eli was ready. The Valyrian moved with precision, using every trick he had devised: decoys, gravitational slingshots, energy redirection, and holographic projections. The aliens, unable to predict or counter the ship's movements, faltered at every turn. Eli guided the fleet through a labyrinth of asteroid fields, gravitational anomalies, and debris clouds, turning their strength into confusion. Drones and decoys created the illusion of dozens of ships where only one existed. The AI anticipated enemy maneuvers before they were made, giving Eli the upper hand. In the end, the aliens retreated, unable to accomplish their mission. Not a single human colony had been harmed. And Eli, sitting in the command chair of the Valyrian, knew they had witnessed something extraordinary. Humans alone had turned the tide, not with firepower but with brains, courage, and creativity. The AI spoke softly, almost in admiration. Human ingenuity, unparalleled. Valyrian operational, complete. Threats neutralized without lethal engagement. Outcome, victory. Eli smiled, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it," he said again. "We really did it." The Valyrian, once forsaken and left to decay, now soared through space as humanity's guardian. A single human mechanic had breathed life into a forgotten warship, transforming it into a symbol of hope, creativity, and resilience. Above all, Eli knew that this was not just a victory for one ship or one human. It was a proof of humanity's potential. Where others saw decay, humans saw possibility. Where others saw danger, humans saw opportunity. And with courage, imagination, and determination, they could face anything the galaxy had to offer. As he plotted the Valerian's next course, Eli whispered into the quiet hum of the ship, "Let's see what else we can do, old friend." And together, human and machine, they moved forward, ready for the next challenge, proving to the galaxy that humans, clever and resilient, could triumph against any odds.